our show Quinn Smith, a KU alumni football player who went pro and played for the Chicago Bears. Soleil was able to sit down and interview him over Zoom, and he had a lot to say and gave some good advice to the KU football team about how they should continue on winning games. I don't know if you watched the game against Duke. I watched it during the first half. And I had to turn off the second half.
I'm gonna admit I might have turned that off. Might have turned it off. Yep.
And then going off, it wasn't the best. I had hope in the first half.
I did too.
It's okay.
As we all do.
Next week.
We'll see. Yeah, for sure.
Anyways, we dove into the aspect of the pay difference when it comes to women versus male professional sports last week, and you shared some exciting news with us.
So after the show, I was kind of like waiting for a bus, scrolling through Instagram, and I actually saw a report from ESPN that like maybe 30 minutes after our show aired that there was a law or bill passed that actually states that the men's and women's soccer team have to be paid by the U.S. Federation the same exact amount, which is exciting news after we covered that last week, especially with the women's soccer, which is something that I kind of followed forever, and I know, and hopefully that this will soon come to NBA and WNBA, but I think this is just exciting news and a huge push forward for equal pay in sports, starting with the women's soccer team.
What I had to say about that after you sent that text message was, it's about time.
It is about time. It truly is.
It's just proven that they have been better than the male's professional soccer team, and it's just exciting to see that push and that change is coming.
Yeah.
However, it did make me question if the women's soccer team is now on this equal level of pay for then why isn't fan attendance always the same?
For sure.
Compared to male versus
female? I mean, I will say that I have never, actually I take that back, I have been to a United States men's soccer team game, but I have been to far more women's soccer games because one, they're better, and two, I mean, I love the crowd and attendance that there is there, but if you look at the WNBA versus the NBA again, like, there's the crowd, the stadiums, it's so different, and it's sad because I wish we could have the same attendance and the same crowd and the vibe and the upbeat that you have there at the NBA in the WNBA.
Exactly, and it's just that people like to argue like it's less entertaining and like that women athletes aren't as strong or athletic as male athletes. And yes, that's scientifically proven, but we don't have to play like males. We have our own talents and our own specialties when it comes to professional sports. So I have to disagree with like the less entertaining aspect of things because, for example, going back off of KU football, we have not been the best for years now. We're not a football school. We can all establish that, agree to that. But it's interesting to like just see how many people still go out to KU football games rather than go to a KU women's softball team game or a women's soccer game, volleyball game, or even the basketball team.
Anything.
Like, they can all win one game or at least one game because I know last season KU football didn't win any games. So I go back to the idea of the media coverage when it comes to sports. Because when you think about it, what do you see producing over the KU Instagram? It's all KU men's basketball.
And like if you look at it, there's graphics and everything on like the men's side and they're showing all this fun stuff and they do all these takeaways and stuff and show highlights outside of the game. The women's game, they just broadcast it and they just talk about it.
Right.
There's no like going into depth, like, oh, like last week this happened, and the next week this will happen, and there's
Make sure to come out for this game because this person's
there's
gonna
no
be there.
promoting the next week or showing what happened the week before because it's just kind of what's going on now and that's it, and there's nothing else about it, which is sad.
Exactly, and I feel like when you like sit down and actually like observe the difference between the men's like men's team being broadcast on television versus any women's team being broadcast on television, I feel like they make it less entertaining.
They do. I think that the broadcasting and commentating could be stronger on the women's side. I think it could.
Because you have the big names color commentary,
for sure,
the professional sports teams, and you have, I feel like when it comes to women's sport, you don't have enough like camera shots, instant replay, review. Like I know watching the NFL, like when a flag's thrown and like they're reviewing like a play for like 5 minutes, you're like, oh my goodness, this is like happening? So like exciting, like on the edge of your seat. But I feel like that the media doesn't produce that same content when it comes to the professional side.
I completely agree, and I think it could be better.
Exactly. And I think we can both agree that this doesn't stem from the professional side or college side. This
it's everywhere.
Yeah, it was a difference in high school, especially.
I agree, yeah.
For example, like my high school team, my softball team was on the road to state.
Mm-hmm.
Yet more people were at the baseball games when they couldn't even win a playoff game.
Oh, yeah.
And like nothing against, it was just like interesting,
sure.
like the teams that were better should have been promoted more, I feel
I
like.
agree. Yeah, I agree.
So if you could change that around, then there probably
you would see a whole different world of sports.
Exactly.
It would be more happy and accepting and welcoming.
Exactly.
And I think it would be a better place.
On an equal level playing field,
Yep.
for sure.
For sure.
So now we're going to cut to Soleil, who's currently outside Memorial Stadium, asking students their stance on fan attendance.
Hi, I'm Soleil Rucker, and I'm standing outside of David Booth Memorial Stadium, where I'm going to be asking a student whether she would prefer going to a women's basketball game or a men's football game. Hi, Katie. Would you prefer going to a women's basketball game or a men's football game?
Ooh, I would rather go to a men's football game.
Why?
Just because I think that the atmosphere is super cool there. There's a loud crowd, everyone's tailgating. I've never been to a women's basketball game, but I think it'd be really cool to go.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for your time. Yeah. Back to you, Lily, in the studio.
Everyone's going to choose KU football over attending a women's team.
Mm-hmm.
But I just feel like this conversation should be going deeper.
Yeah,
And
it should not be stopped.
Exactly.
It should be continue to be talked about, and it should be brought up in conversations.
Mm-hmm. Well, I definitely know I probably will end up at the KU football game this week, but I love watching the women's softball team here. Rock Chalk
for
Park.
sure.
They're amazing. Their season is just getting going, and they look very promising and like ready to like bring home some playoff wins. So.
Yay.
Now we're gonna go to break, and Soleil will be back with a really special guest again this week.
Drafted during the 8th round of the NFL draft, being the 214th pick to the Houston Oilers, can you describe your time at the NFL?
Well, yeah, the NFL, that was interesting. Let's start with just getting drafted, was really, something special in itself. 214th pick, they don't have the 8th round, but they have 60-some picks or whatever it is today. I was super excited, but disappointed at the same time because I thought I'd go higher, maybe more in the middle rounds instead of the last round. So that kind of spurned on a new motivation to prove and put a chip on my shoulder, to be honest, just to prove that I belonged and that I was good enough, especially going to the Combine, the Senior Bowl, the Blue-Gray game, all these all-star games. And that kind of built up my confidence. I really felt like, back then, the MAC conference at Ball State wasn't on TV. So when I got to play against all these guys on TV, man, my confidence just rose each and every day we practiced that I was just as good or maybe even better. So it was a little disappointing. Sometimes you can't control those things, but you can't control yourself. And once you get in camp, I was definitely on a mission to prove I belonged and to prove that I could play at a high level every day. So it was exciting at the same time, nerve-wracking and stressful, but it was a dream come true for sure.
Awesome. You were known as a fan favorite called the Hitman and earned 4 Pro Bowls. Can you describe how you went from being drafted 214th pick to being a fan favorite and being the pinnacle of the NFL defense?
Wow. I think that all goes to just the blue collar mentality. I started this Hitman deal, and I was actually a cornerback in college and high school. I got moved to safety just by sake of injuries at camp with the Houston Oilers in training camp. So I was fortunate. It's in the right scheme, right system. That's very valuable to people's success as players and in anyone in life, really. So I was in the 46th defense. And so that kind of helped me out a lot. So I could use a lot of different attributes of my skill set. I was a good cover guy, but I wasn't a great cover guy. I wasn't super big. I was kind of short, considering you're in the NFL when you're, the 5'9", 5'10" guy. But I was fast, I was quick, and I was tough, and I was smart. And all those values really helped me out along the way with some great players. So, yeah, that's kind of led down that road. I never, set goals out to be a Pro Bowl player. And still today, even in the industry I'm in now, just doing radio, my goal is just to be the best version of what I can give out of myself. And that's all I can do. And that's what my mantra was. And the Hitman kind of started when I was in college. I had my Letterman jacket. I know they don't wear Letterman jacket that much now, but I put it on my Letterman jacket in college, and really kind of started that, little slogan, I guess, to get
people
excited.
still call you that.
Yeah, a lot of people still call me that, especially, and it kind of carried over into the pros, and everybody calls me that, really, pretty much here in Tennessee. So, yeah, I think that was a cool little deal that I started, and I kind of put it like it's like when prime time Deion Sanders, but I was Hitman, so I wasn't as big as prime time, but to me, it was fun to kind of start that up, and everybody calls me that now, so it's cool.
Do you have any advice for women who are trying to get involved in sports broadcasting?
I would probably say do every and anything that you can, because you never know where you're going to get your opportunity, whether that's behind the scenes, working the camera, let's say, or in radio, working the board, between the glass, between the individuals that are on radio and broadcasting. Gather as much knowledge as you can from people who are in the industry, and some of the people you look up to or watch a lot if you have that opportunity. I would say do any and everything, because you just don't know where you're going to get your opportunity. I get that question all the time. It's tough to get in the industry, but you better make sure you make the most opportunities so you be prepared to seize the moment.
Welcome back to our Week 3 Fantasy Football Update, and let's get ready for Week 4. A couple things I do want to mention before we get started. First off, clearly none of the rookie quarterbacks were ready to start. Tua on the injury report. Lawrence is losing faith. Also, if I see one more thing about the Chiefs being last in the NFC West, I'm going to lose it. And then people were like, oh, do you see the Broncos? Yeah, what about them? They have a light schedule, and they had 2 easy road wins. Congratulations, Broncos fans. You beat the Jets 26-0, and now they think they can go win the Super Bowl. If you were a Chiefs fan before the Mahomes era, you just know. Anyways, let's get back to it before I go on a rampage. I don't know about you guys, but I am struggling with injuries on my team right now. I swear these past few weeks all I've had to say is injury after injury, and it's tiring. But as for this coming week, here are some injuries you should look out for. Minnesota Vikings star Dalvin Cook missed Sunday's game with a sprained ankle, and fantasy managers did not get the update until the morning of the game. In absence of Cook, Alexander Mattison started and put on a show with 23.1 fantasy points compared to Cook's healthy 16.8 points in Week 2. Managers must consider rostering Mattison in the event Cook does not return for Week 4. As for wide receivers to watch, Tennessee Titans star A.J. Brown left the game with a hamstring injury on Sunday. Brown only had 7 catches with fewer than 100 receiving yards, which is, like many others, is certainly not what I expected from Brown. Meanwhile, Steelers have Juju Smith-Schuster left the game Sunday with a rib injury, and Bengals' T. Higgins did not enter the game Sunday with a shoulder injury. With all of those injuries, you know what that means? Let's hit the waivers, shall we? Here's a few to consider this week. Chubba Hubbard, running back from the Carolina Panthers. Chubba is a 4th-round rookie who has an exceptional career at Oklahoma State. When in 2019 alone, he had over 2,000 rushing yards and 21 touchdowns. Now with McCaffrey injured, Hubbard was sent in to handle 11 carries and 5 targets, clearly showing that he can man up when the job needs to be done. While fantasy managers are hopeful for McCaffrey's return, Hubbard is a must-add in all fantasy leagues, and I can likely guarantee that he will land inside the top 25 of the running back rankings as soon as Week 4. Like I mentioned earlier, another good pickup is Alexander Mattison, running back from Minnesota, and a good backup for those who have Dalvin Cook out. Might I also suggest Peyton Barber, running back for the Raiders. With Josh Jacobs out as well, with an ankle injury, the Raiders put their trust in Barber as their number 1 runner. In Week 3, Barber had his best game in a while with 111 yards while also finding the end zone and saw 5 targets. He's a good add in the absence of many running backs. All right, y'all, that's all I have for you this week, but stay tuned for your Week 4 update and Week 5 waiver pickups. I also have to add, I am in fact 3-0 in fantasy football with a massive thanks to Ezekiel Elliott, the man himself. Now, we are going to go to Lily with the NFL recap.
Yeah, it was supposed to be a commercial. It's okay.
For students searching for a way to stay active in an outdoorsy way, the City of Lawrence has bike trails running in every direction, and with the new bike share program, we can stay in shape as we tour the sights of our beautiful city. Clinton Lake is only a short 30-minute bike ride away from Daisy Hill and has the most incredible sunset location in all of Lawrence. Walking campus may give you the KU calves, but biking can give you the KU thighs. Bike Lawrence today.
Another exciting week in the NFL. Only 5 teams remain undefeated right now, compared to the 7 last week. If I had to put my bet on which team will stay undefeated through week 4, I would have to go with the Carolina Panthers. From 2020 to 2021, the Panthers have improved significantly, especially on the defensive side. The Panthers led the league in sacks, yards allowed per game, quarterback hits, and defensive stops on third downs. Chicago Bears quarterback Justin Fields got his first career start this week. Did he live up to the hype? I would say not at all. He was sacked 9 times, only had 68 passing yards, and only completed 6 of 20 passing attempts. Will Justin Fields be able to adjust to the new pressure of being named starting quarterback, or will the Bears have to continue their search for that star QB? Week 3 also brought fans, including myself, some wild endings. On the AFC side, the Baltimore Ravens had an insane ending. It was the 4th quarter and the Ravens were down by 1 point. Lamar Jackson had to drive downfield with only a minute left. Jackson was able to throw a 36-yard pass to Sammy Watkins, which got the Ravens across field to allow Justin Tucker to kick a record-breaking 66-yard field goal that bounced through the crossbar and gave the Ravens a win.
NFL record 66 yards. On its way. It bounces off the crossbar, and it's good! Oh my goodness! Oh my goodness!
On the NFC side, the nail-biter came from the Sunday night football game. The 49ers were trailing most of the game until they drove downfield for a touchdown, which gained them a 1-point lead. However, they left about 36 seconds left on the clock, and if you know anything about Packers quarterback Aaron Rodgers, you know that is way too much time. With no timeouts left, the only option for the Packers was to drive downfield as quickly as possible. The NFL MVP did just that by throwing 2 big completions to wide receiver Devontae Adams to set up Mason Crosby for a 51 field goal attempt. When your field goal kicker is Mason Crosby, you might as well start celebrating because he made the 51-yarder with no issue at all.
To try to win it. And the kick is good to win the game.
The Packers now sit first place in the NFC North. That is all I have for this week's NFL recap. I will throw it to Lily, and she will break down this week's KU sporting events.
Thank you, Lily. Late Night in the Fog has not happened since COVID started, but this year it is finally back, and after Snoop Dogg's performance, I think KU is going to play this one family, friendly, safe with Run DMC. Get ready to camp out early because this is going to be a good one. Late Night in the Fog is scheduled for this Friday. Doors open at 4 p.m. and the performance starts at 6:30 p.m. For football, their last game was on September 25th against Duke and another devastating loss, 52-33. Their next game will be on October 2nd away at Iowa State at 6 o'clock p.m. and will be aired on FS1. For women's soccer, their last game was on September 26th against Oklahoma in Stillwater and lost 3-1, and their next game will be on September 30th at 7 p.m. against Kansas State at home and will be airing on the Big 12 Network and ESPN+. As for volleyball, their last game was on September 25th against Texas Tech in Lubbock and won 3-2. Their next game on October 1st at 4 p.m. against Iowa State at home. And for cross country, their last event was September 25th at home. Results have not yet been posted. And their next event will be October 1st against Missouri in Columbia. As for men's golf, their next match is on September 27th through the 28th at the Wyndon Memorial hosted by Northwestern. Results from yesterday have not been posted yet. For women's golf, their last match was on September 20th through the 21st at the Maryland Smith Sunflower Invitational hosted by Kansas State, and KU placed third. Their next match will be on September 27th through the 28th at the Golf Week Conference Challenge in Vail, Colorado, and the results have not yet been posted. That's all I have for this week. Thank you guys for tuning into this week's episode of LillySquared, and we hope to see you again next week at the same time. Have a good one. Bye, guys.